Hi, folks. Welcome back to On Call with Insignia, where we go on call with leaders innovating the future of Southeast Asia's internet and digital economy and beyond, or as we like to call it, ASI Innovation. I'm your host, Paolo Quino, and we're back with another episode with one of our founders, two of our founders, rather, to share not just about their business, but also their journeys coming into this business and some of their learnings from growing this business so far the last few years. So we have none other than Bintang Hidayanto and Timur Nugroho, the founders of Gani.ai. So thank you, Timur and Bintang, for joining us on this call today.
Thank you, Paulo. Thank you, Paulo. It's good to be here.
I'm really excited to talk about this because I think it's obviously Gani.ai is, as the name suggests, an AI company. Who doesn't love to talk about AI? But also, I think with the two of you on this call, we're going to get some interesting perspectives, both from the law legal perspective, which is the industry that Gani.ai operates in, or it's trying to, the value that it's trying to unlock, but also from the product AI kind of tech side as well, which is really powering the platform that you guys are building. So first things first, maybe for our audience who have not heard about Gani, maybe Bintang and Timor, maybe you can share like a brief kind of introduction for our audience about what you guys are building so far at this point and what you guys have in terms of a vision for the future of law and the legal industry.
In a very short description, what we're building is what we call compliance tech. So this is merging the boring compliance side to get with the exciting technology, which is AI. And what we're trying to do here is primarily give access as much as possible to these originally or ordinarily gate-kept knowledge that's very difficult to access. And then, I don't like the term, but democratizing that access. And not only that, we are also taking it a step further by supercharging this ability to go and to be able to serve corporation needs. So large corporations, large companies that require very extensive data processing, reviewing and everything beyond just the usual individual use whenever you think about AI. So basically that's what we're building. In terms of the future, what we think we want to achieve is one, a world where access to, first of all, compliance knowledge and service is not as gate capped. So that's from the customer side, from the client perspective. And when I say compliance, this is the Bermuda Triangle of law, accounting, and tax. But also at the same time, the tool is very useful, and we want it to be useful for the professionals themselves as well, to allow them to be able to work or deliver service in ways unimaginable before. That will bring about hopefully an era where cost for getting these services are no longer based on rarity or scarcity, but it's based on quality, meaning that it's going to be a lot more accessible. And if you have to pay a premium price, it's not because of scarcity, but it's because it reflects the quality or the complexity that you need. So that's the future of what we're trying to make.
I think what we're building is a very exciting AI-powered tool. It's a technology that keeps changing. I think from the point we started building it up until now, lots of changes in the industry. So it's a matter of picking one that is very scalable, at the same time resistant to change, because we really change the tech every month, and that's the exciting part of it.
I like what you mentioned now about it being compliance tech as opposed to legal tech, because I think it points really at the immediate use case that you guys are building for and the value that is being created and the opportunity there. And you talk about the whole Bermuda Triangle, the intersection between law, accounting, tax as well, which I think is a really important use case. I wanted to jump into how you guys got into building Gani. I know, Timor, you had product background before that in tech, and then Dang, lawyers, also within the startup and venture ecosystem. So maybe you can share a little bit of how you guys came together. How long have you guys known each other? And how did you eventually decide to, okay, let's make the jump, throw away the safety net and start building?
I'll start with this one.
Story comes from
you. Very interesting story. Actually, the idea of building something like this, myself and England have been discussing this since a decade ago. And there's always this desire to to inject technology, especially into this field, because logically you think there are a lot of areas where technology can make many things better, but somehow it's always very hard to apply that. So we've been talking about this many years. Whenever I had a chance to meet England, we always discuss about this. And I was always under the view that at that time there were no technology that would allow for a significant solution other than just incremental increase or incremental betterment.
Not really needle moving kind of technology.
Yeah, it's not really the kind of thing where it really makes an impact, positive impact. Yeah. Up until the advent of generative AI, and that's when the discussion started getting a bit more serious, and we started really thinking about how to apply this. Of course, from the concept ideation until now, there has changed a lot, but that was the initial idea and kind of the initial spark that led to this, the whole thing. Now, my background as a lawyer helped in understanding how the industry works, not just as a lawyer, but also as a business, as an entrepreneur in the legal business, right? But that means nothing without the capability of turning that vision into something that you can touch and see, right? And through stroke of luck, I was able to be introduced to Timur, and from the beginning, we didn't have a proper meetup. We only met after we decided to work together. But then from the first call, immediately, it wasn't difficult to see that, okay, this is, I think we both have the right dynamics, and I think we both understand what we're trying to do and the kind of commitment that's required and everything. So yeah.
Around when was that first call with Timur?
I think that was 2024.
2023, I think, December.
2000, yeah, actually you're right. 2023 December.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So actually, not that long ago, and yeah, Timur, for you, when you got that invitation from Bintang, what were you looking for at the time? I guess professionally.
I thought I was being summoned by the law, but it was really exciting. I've always been in technology as a practitioner, as a product guy, but predominantly in fintech. So this is my first stint, right, in legal, and I thought it's such a far-reached industry. It's not something that anyone just come in and innovate, let alone be in it for a long time. It was a really interesting opportunity to be able to be involved in, and at the same time innovate the industry. At least that's the aim, and the world of compliance and tax as well. We were going to build something not as sizable as this originally. It was for the firm, but then it became a beast, if you allow me to use that word, that it is now. That it's becoming a platform that is being used multinationally. So that's where we got together, and it's been an exciting journey.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I always find it really great when founders always solve their own kind of pain points and are able to find ways to scale that to other kind of use cases.
On that point, on what you said, I think that's actually the most important thing, because I don't want to name names, but we've seen in the past, it's still going now in a lot of sectors, where you have all these solutions coming up, not because they're solving anything, but they're solving problems that they themselves created. But it's just coming from the perspective of the mindset of, okay, I have to identify a problem. So then you go around and then you look for problems, no matter how artificial it is. And then you then go into kind of hacking mode. How do we solve this problem? Which I think is very inorganic, right? Because with us, when we started, the first thing we did was we looked into our own operations, the law firm, and then we say, okay, what are the things that we can make better, can make more efficient, we can enhance with technology, and how do we do it? And these are lived-in experience. These are real problems that we deal with on a daily basis. These are not just problems that we go out and try to find or research. These are actual problems that we believe almost everybody in the sector face. And it allows us to make a product that is a lot more grounded to reality. It's not the kind of product where you have to stop and think and imagine how do you use this to solve your problem, and then start thinking about artificial problems to use the product.
Because sometimes the tech comes first before the...
Exactly. Yes. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Many times we've seen this happen. The tech comes first before the discipline, right? Before what you're trying to solve. It's not a bad thing, but we just want to try to approach this differently. We want to look from the business first, from the actual problem first, and then how do we then imbue technology to actually really solve problems.
And I think it's a much less risky way of building as opposed to the other way where you're trying to like figure things out. A lot more possibilities of making mistakes along the way. And so with a clear idea of what you're solving in mind, it's...
At the very least, you don't really have to worry about validation, because I was putting myself as a customer myself as well, right? So if I'm a customer with these problems and I'm presented with this solution, would I buy it? Would I use it? So again, the reason why you need to do like market validation is either because it's such a groundbreaking thing that no one's thought about, like it's completely new thing, or you're actually solving an artificial problem that maybe is not really a problem, but kind of creating it into a problem. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it takes a lot more effort to then kind of educate the market why you need this.
And speaking of what makes Gani different, especially from a product level, I wanted to get into the discussion of, and I think Insignia and Gani have been on a lot of trips abroad and have been with you guys as you've been pitching Gani as well to different kind of organizations and companies. So I was curious to know, like, how do you field questions on what makes Gani different from other agents, especially Timur, you alluded earlier to the fact that this technology is changing every month, like pretty quickly. And obviously there are a lot of tools coming up and other players outside of Southeast Asia, outside of Asia, also building within this space. What is your response to those kinds of questions? And I think Bintang, you already touched upon one aspect of it, but maybe Timur, maybe you can expand on that a little bit more. What's the difference between, say, generalist agents and other kind of AI agents that are also within the kind of legal or legal space?
Yeah, look, I think Gani.ai is built by us for us. When I say us, it's the legal compliance professional. So like we really know what the problems are, how the problems are solved, even without the AI. So really the AI is just a tool, right? Prior to me coming in, AI comes in. These folks already know what they do day in, day out, right? So every solution that we've built, every aspect of even the tech stack, we already thought about how would this solve the compliance and legal problems in the real world, right? And I think that really gives the right perspective of also the UX on how we've built Gani.ai. One aspect of it is, if I can share this, is the sort of the versatility of how we design Gani.ai for the use of the users. Some of these other platforms are mostly like workflow based, whereas Gani is more versatile as how legal professionals use them, right? Like how legal professionals deal with problems day in, day out. There's no one legal problem that is the same with another one, right? And given that knowledge, that's how we've designed the user experience for Gani. Now, in terms of the changing technology, it's really easy to get sidetracked, followed by all these fancy new tools. Naturally, like developers and like techies would like to always play with the latest things, but again, we are grounded in the focus of our solution, that we are really picking and choosing what we're building and what new technologies we are introducing to Gani.ai.
I also wanted to touch on how you're approaching scaling adoption for this, because obviously you have the product itself and you can talk online about it. And I know Bintang, you share a lot on LinkedIn. I highly suggest for our listeners to follow him on LinkedIn, and he often shares like some interesting use cases, topical use cases for Gani. So always interesting to see his posts. But yeah, I guess there's that consumer component, I guess, of the product where you can just word of mouth, tell people about it. But then there's also the B2B kind of aspect as well, where you're talking to both kind of enterprise, you're also talking to lawyers, and you recently launched this kind of product within the platform called Partner Connect, which allows for more engagement with the legal industry. Can you speak a little bit more to how you guys are thinking about the whole GTM strategy, especially on the business front and the legal industry front?
From the beginning, when we set out to do this, we made it very clear that we want to do this as conventional as we can. meaning that we're going to focus on, doing things more organically as opposed to obviously inorganically. Yeah. So we're not really concerned about it's not a rat race, right? It's at the end of the day, if we believe that the product is useful, if we do not have to tell people or give them a 2-hour presentation about why this is useful for them, the product's going to speak for itself. Of course, there's this issue of reach, right? How many people can we talk to in a day to get them on board? So there's that part that needs to be supplemented with additional kind of marketing efforts and everything. But we think that the number one GTM strategy for us is to make a great product that speaks for itself. And that's what we do. Whenever we meet with potential customers, we rarely give them our sales deck or anything. We just say, you know what? If you have half an hour, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to do a live demo. And even I'm going to give you a demo account that gives you immediate access to Gani without even having to go through, this is a trial account and stuff like that. And to our surprise, a lot of the people we spoke to are actually quite surprised by this approach. So, you're going to do a live demo now? I thought you want to show us a presentation about why this is useful. I think it's easier for us to show how the product works rather than for me to tell you how it works and then expect you to imagine it the way I want you to imagine it. I don't want to waste your time doing that. So that's how we've been doing, and it's been very effective. I think we have a rate of almost 1-to-1 for every customer we speak. The interest is up until now is almost always positive. So we want to focus on doing that, and we want to be focusing more on creating a great product. At some point, we're going to have to do a lot more on the marketing front. It's such a niche product as well already. We have billboards. It's not going to help that much. Rather than actually, word of mouth is the best GTM actually, but word of mouth only happens if you actually have a good product that people would recommend to other people. And we've been very fortunate that we do periodic NPS kind of review, and we've been very surprised with the score, and we've been very consistent. Our NPS is above 8, which is unbelievable when we ask a lot of people, especially in the kind of software business. But it is what it is, and I think it came back to the core of our philosophy, that is, we want to solve real problem and solving it gracefully. Yeah.
And if I can probably add, our hypothesis is that this AI tool is not replacing anyone, really, Paulo. If you talk about legal professionals, lawyers, compliance experts, this is a tool that empowers those people, right? No, this is not back to the unpopular saying AI will replace lawyers, etc. This is not it. We have law firms as our client base. And I think you mentioned Partner Connect before, and that is the true manifestation of that hypothesis, right? We are bringing in lawyers as part of our journey. So Partner Connect is a feature that enables users not just to interact with the AI, with Gani by chatting, but it also then redirects the users into the relevant lawyers as Gani sees fit, right? So Gani will understand what the user is asking, and Gani has a database of all these lawyers that we have curated, and then the dynamic matchmaking will happen. So it's not a traditional sort of marketplace, and there's a bit more tailored and nuanced to it, that the user doesn't have to repeat what he or she wants when meeting the expert.
And even also on the Partner Connect part, when we set out to make it, we were really thinking about, okay, what would help the lawyers, what would help the users. And one of the things that I myself as a lawyer find it very tedious is responding to RFPs. It's such a tedious thing, but you have to do it. And believe it or not, actually it takes a lot more time than you think, right? So potential client asks, can you do this? You have to talk, not only you have to say why you can do it, but also you have to justify why you say you can do it. So you're going to put in all these, like what you've done, all your accolades, your years of experience and all these things. So when we make this dynamic profile generator for the lawyers, we have that in mind. So the lawyers don't have to re-explain to the potential customer or client why they are the best, or they have the best tools at their disposal to do what's needed of them. But also from the user side, going through response to RFPs, multiple, say a dozen or more, is actually very tedious also. And then having to make that like mental imagery, thinking about which one of these potential service providers are better for you, where they give all these very widely different response, very with different style and everything, and then you have to shift through all these, like looking at CVs, right? But less, at least CVs have a kind of a structure to it, but this doesn't have. Proposals don't have structure to it. So yeah, you go through these proposals without really knowing what are these, and a lot of them actually have fluffs, a lot of fluffs, metaphors and everything. We are the best at what we do. What is it that you do, and how do you know you're the best as a user? So this dynamic profile also helps the user in making the decision, or helping them in making the decision. So even just the simple process of finding a lawyer and then selecting a lawyer from the user side, but also from the lawyer side or from the professional side, getting your name out there with the right context for the right potential audience. We already have that problem in mind when we make it, because it could have just been a very simple matchmaking, like a marketplace, right? And we tested it, and we see that, okay, from both ends feel that this is actually solving something that they all know is a problem, but no one really seemed to think about how can this be solved. And yeah, so this approach is centered to our product making philosophy.
With the whole advent of Gen AI and agentic AI, it actually provides like a really efficient solution to this problem that perhaps in the past might not have been as readily available. Otherwise, you would have just gone with the marketplace and some kind of like decision tree, automated decision tree to help people get connected to what they need. But now with AI agents, that becomes a lot more efficient. And what I like about Partner Connect is that you guys are really thinking beyond just a knowledge base or knowledge access, right? And thinking about like the whole kind of user journey beyond people asking, how do I address this type of compliance issue? And then say you get some context and some answer like, what do I do next? And then you have Partner Connect to supplement that next step of the process. The other thing I wanted to talk about on our podcast is, I think for Southeast Asia or startups coming out of Asia in general, I think the interesting thing is that from day one, you guys are already forced to deal with a lot of kind of geographies and different market nuances from day one that perhaps, say, a company coming out from the US perhaps or China might not be as used to from day one. So yeah, I'm curious to know, especially from a product perspective with Timur, like you mentioned earlier how versatile Gani is and how you built Gani for that adaptability. Like, how do you deal with the different kind of, say you go to Japan, different rules, different laws and all of that? How do you like plug into kind of their data and their context there? And then how do you do that efficiently without it taking up more time than is needed to do things properly?
Okay. I think back to, we have a domain expertise here. Through his firm, we've got a lot of network around the region, Apollo, Southeast Asia and beyond really. Japan is a big market for us as well, also Australia. So we've been able to get a lot of feedback and useful feedback from these regions, and not just on the sort of the law, the legal knowledge, but also in terms of the UX as well, right? Like how in particular each domain would like to use a certain platform, right? I guess they behave differently. So that's in terms of the UX and the feedback, right? But in terms of the information contained in Gani itself, we've been able to build quite fancy and advanced AI powered by REC. So we've been very fortunate with our partnership with AWS as well, for their platform, which is all robust and also a lot scalable than if we had built Gani from ground up, line by line, infrastructure-wise ourselves. So that really enables us to tailor Gani in terms of the knowledge and its behavior per region by assigning different agents to each one of them. Not just the regions, but also each specific tasks required to be done per those regions. So again, it's only a matter of time until we branch out to more regions, and due to the way we've built Gani in such a agentic way, it's not going to be very hard to scale them quite rapidly.
Right. So a lot more modular, I would say, in terms of how you use the
Yeah.
agents. Yeah, really specific to the
Yeah.
use cases and geographies.
Agentic is probably a word that is going to be so overused, democratized in the past, but it is really a powerful framework to think about when building an AI system.
I like that point that new technology, but also a new way of thinking about how to automate. I wanted to ask about Harvey, right? Which I think is what a lot of investors use as a kind of like comparable or a benchmark, and especially with the recent round that they raised. And obviously, and not just Harvey, but I think a lot of US tech companies, I think with the recent kind of like resurgence in funding and all these things, they're looking at Asia and markets in Asia to expand to. And I'm sure you've gotten this question before, like, what is the moat for Gani and how are you guys building that? And how do you see the kind of like competitive landscape evolve, especially with AI being accessible, especially for builders out there? Yeah, Bintang, maybe you want to start.
Okay. Maybe I'll start with the second question. Okay. So our focus is to build product that we as a customer want to use. And in order to do that, we have to combine not only vertical knowledge, like very deep vertical knowledge, not just in the discipline, but also in the business side of that discipline, right? So for example, being a tax consultant and running a tax consultancy firm is two different things. So combining those two knowledge with technology that's available right now or maybe in the future to solve real problems that we actually deal with on day-to-day basis. So we want to focus more on that. We don't really think that much about looking at our other friends who are doing similar things as a threat. In fact, it's the reverse. We see it as a conviction that, one, the market is steadily becoming more receptive to the idea. And it always takes a few years for this part of the world to catch up to what's happening in the West, in the US, and in the Europe, in EU. But as you can see how dynamic the sector is. And it's still a sector that is so enigmatic, and that's why it's drawing so much attention, because you need to combine, you need to have this formula, like when you make Powerpuff Girls, right? You need to have the discipline, the understanding of the discipline that you're trying to imbue technology with, and then you have to be the technological capability to actually deliver and then make the product that works. Having that advantage for us is, I think, what we're proud of. And we think that this is going to be, in this region, the wave it's not a hype thing yet compared to in the US, for example. But I don't think it's going to take that much longer for the hype to come this part of the world. And we want to be more than ready when the time comes.
Look, I think since you already mentioned the name, Paulo, one time when we exhibited in Tokyo, we were called the Asian Harvey, which I don't mind at all. Back to what Bintang's saying, these bigger players, they paved the way, and we want to be ready when the wave comes to us. And I think given also the difference in the size of the two companies, our friends who have built solutions earlier, to be compared against them is actually something that we cherish a lot, right? Just imagine the possibilities in the next coming years when we grow into that size, right? The kinds of value and product propositions that we can offer. It's going to be super exciting.
I think one of the things that really differentiate a lot of Southeast Asia startups from like the bigger companies in the US, for example, is really like the distribution and the trust that you guys have built locally with the ear on the ground. I think that Bintang was alluding to earlier, really getting to know what the pain points are for professionals and businesses in this part of the world, because it may actually be different than what it might not be as generalized as people think. A lot of these like small
absolutely.
details. And I think I read this article before about the importance of taste, quote unquote, and how in an era of AI where products can be a lot more similar and built a lot faster, I think it's really in the small things where customers are won over and the little details that you guys put in.
Being Asian helps a lot in building a solution that focuses on this region. From the beginning, we have the mindset already. We know as a customer, how would we think of a solution or think of a product. So that helps. But also, I think another thing that we are very particular about is that we shouldn't look at this region as a separated entity. We have to look at it as a whole, as a region. And that's the whole idea of making this cross-jurisdictional. Because when you talk about like compliance, the complexity gets amplified whenever you do business in this part of the world. In the US, you have 350 million people all speaking the same language, all operating under similar legislation. At least the basis of the law is similar. A lot of the basis of the accounting and tax treatment are also similar. So it's a more uniform, unicoded kind of market. You try to replicate it here, it's very different. None of the countries in ASEAN speak the same language. And then if you go beyond that, actually no of the countries in Asia speak exactly the same language. In fact, even in one country, you have multiple languages. That's even more common than having the shared language. And then you have all the differences in the legal system. Some of them, actually a lot of them are byproducts from the old days of European governance, right? Indonesia and Malaysia and Singapore, for example. But there are countries that have developed their own unique legal systems that are not influenced or very minimally influenced by the Western side. And then you have other regions. I'm going to put Australia into the mix here as well. Australia, that is very Western, but it's completely different, set apart from all the rest of its neighbors. So it's a very dynamic region here. And I think the gold lies in whoever is able to then streamline and make sense of all these complexities. And we can see it happening already. A lot of our customers use us for their cross-border operation to just basically, if you are a general counsel or the head legal of a Japanese company operating in Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Australia, and UAE, and you just want to know the simple question, what are the rules around paying for overtime? In a world before technology or before AI or before Gani, you would actually have to go and find counsels, find lawyers to actually do that and answer this small question. For each country, speaking different language. And okay, let's say as a general counsel, let's say you speak good English, but then maybe your counterpart in another country doesn't really speak that good English. So there's that language barrier already. What Gani allows you to do is to ask in Japanese, laws in Indonesia, laws in Middle East, in UAE, that is Arabic, and then be given excerpt and citation from the basis, the source, both in the Arabic language and translated Japanese language. These things really help for very select group of operations that we try to service. That's going to be where the goal is, and that's why I think it's different. This market is very different to a more uniform and a lot more advanced regulatory market in the West.
I think the goal isn't cross-border. I think this whole idea of being able to bridge the ability for customers to operate across multiple jurisdictions, I think for compliance, for I think payments, fintech, I think that's like a huge opportunity now in this part of the world. And Gani is working on the compliance opportunity in particular. To wrap up our conversation, I wanted to ask each of you as well, an experience from your careers, right? A make or break moment in your careers, maybe not in Gani, maybe in your previous work that that is helping you now in your role now at Gani, as with being a CEO and also being CPO and building the product. What has been a make or break moment in your career so far that is helping you today?
I think for me, quite contrary to what most techies would prefer to do, is to play with the latest tools. And working in Gani, based on my previous experience, has been a lot more grounded, really. We play with the tools that actually are helping the business and to helping us make good products, right? In terms of, instead of just bringing in the latest and with the most bells and whistles, because these costs add up. And I think long gone are the days where new companies can just spend however they want. and justify it later. We're trying to scale pretty rapidly, but at the same time, very, as Bintang said, conservatively as well. I think that's for me.
Mm-hmm. I think an interesting way of thinking and might be a helpful advice for other product leaders who are listening. And yeah, Bintang, for you.
I'm not just drawing in from my own make or break, from my own break experience, but also from what I've experienced practicing as a lawyer. And I've seen a lot of situations where I learned a lot from that. And of course, I can't get into details, otherwise I'm going to have to shoot you, Paulo. But those experience, like hands-on experience, especially around the industry, the tech industry as a whole, right? What happened, what worked, what didn't work. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was in a lot of the dramas. When things go wrong, people call people like us, right? So unfortunately, we have all this information and knowledge that then help me distill and get experience, get lived in experience from all these things that happen. I was a lawyer for 15 years, so that gave me a very different perspective on risk, on like problems, what worked, what didn't work, what happened. I consider that more valuable to my own experiences as kind of myself. Yes. So I'm using learned lessons from what I was fortunate enough to be exposed to during my professional career to then help formulate what we want to not do. Yes. You're right.
I think the important thing is what not to do and reduces the risk for actually catalyzes pathway for you guys to build. And I think like we've talked a lot about how you being a lawyer and founding one of the, I would say, like well-known law firms in the ecosystem in Indonesia has helped. But I think the fact that you were involved in the startup and venture ecosystem has its own kind of meta value in building a venture-backed startup as well this time around. On that note,
it's been very interesting, but I wouldn't want to do anything else at this point of time. So I think that this is, I think we're onto something. I really do. We still get surprised by feedbacks in a good way. Sometimes we question whether people whom we met or we did demos to, they were just being too nice to us. But then we think, why would they be nice to us? We're not even bringing them cookies or donuts or anything, why? So maybe the response are actually genuine. So we're still getting surprised by that on a daily basis, which is a good motivation. But then it also keeps us grounded to really more and more believe in and also continue on with the philosophy that we want to build product that matters, and we want to build a product that really solves problem rather than artificially create some problem to solve.
Mm-hmm. We're on this call virtually, but I can really feel how you guys are genuinely passionate about this product and really excited about what you guys are building. And I think that's really, one of the important things. And to your point about you guys may not know, there's a lot of possibility with this space, but I think with your guys ear to the ground and really talking to customers and all of that, I think that will really pave the way moving forward for Gani. And for our listeners out there who want to try it out, very simple, six letters, Gani.ai. Just type into your browser and check it out. I think you guys have it's like a free trial kind of credits still going on for those ones.
Yes. Immediately, everybody gets 10 free prompts. If you email me or email Timur, we are too generous sometimes and we give away
extended trial
like Oprah giving away presents. Oprah mode. But our aim is to get people to experience this really rather than having to imagine this. Really just sit down with it and then play around with it and then see what we've been talking about and then see what and then get a sense of why in a very short time without aggressive marketing, all organic. We just launched very recently, Paulo. So we launched officially around March. And now we have, I would say, close to 2,000 users across multiple countries with very minimal marketing. I think the only marketing we do is through LinkedIn and occasional events that we participate. But other than that, we don't do any kind of, I'd say, more dedicated kind of marketing and ads kind of approach. So all word of mouth, it's all people finding us out from social media, that's personal social media, LinkedIn, and then to try it.
Yeah, I think that's really the best. And if you guys can just rely on that to scale, that will be ideal. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things pan out.
See,
And
it
for
could
those
be
who
a
are,
hockey stick thing. It takes a while
sure,
to go up, but then
yeah,
once it's up,
who
people will
knows?
start looking for it.
Yeah, and I like that you guys are just really focused on building an excellent product that speaks for itself. And for those who are curious, who are listening in, like maybe you can briefly say like where Gani, the name Gani came from, what it means, if there's any kind of
Yeah.
special.
We wanted to move away from the kind of a typical naming of kind of compliance or legal tech. Usually it's a derivative of either legal law and some technology, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
buzzwords. We want to move away from that. We want to create our own identity, but with a meaning. So we spend a lot of time thinking about and arguing about the names, and you wouldn't believe the nonsense that we came up with during the process. But Gani was really a joke because we just asked, okay, what are our technologies? What are the things that are central to us? So the GA stands for generative AI. The N stands for natural language, which is what we want it to be. It's as natural as having conversation with anybody. And the I is ius, which is law in Latin. So Gani is a combination of that three, we say, principle. We want to have the core technology, the ease of use, and the discipline.
And I think that comes full circle to the context, the technological context in which you guys started Gani. And you mentioned earlier that it's something that you had been thinking about, talking with England about for a long time, but it's only like just last year that you guys really put all in and started building this out, and only launched recently, as you mentioned, and already have 2,000 plus customers using this platform.
One more thing, Gani is, we think that it's a phrase that can be written and spoken in a lot of languages. So it's actually Arabic. There's an Arabic word. Gani means gold in Arabic. So they have Arabic have alphabet for Gani. Japanese language have alphabet for Gani. Even Korean and Chinese also. We were very particular about having a name that can be pronounced by all of our markets.
Yeah, no, it's a very like phonetically very easy to pick up, I would think, across different languages. Yeah, for those who are listening in, Gani.ai, check it out. I'll leave, since Bintang already mentioned it, I'll leave Bintang and Timur's emails, not just LinkedIn's. I'll leave their emails in the podcast description in case you guys want to reach out.
If you contact via email, bigger discount. If you contact via LinkedIn, you get some discounts.
So yeah, if you guys have feedback for the platform, the team is at this point where I think there's a lot of, with the size that you guys are at, there's still a lot more kind of feedback that you guys are able to entertain at scale and all that. So I think it's a perfect time for any first-time users to really explore and give comments, especially those who are in the compliance space. So yeah, on that note, thank you so much for joining us on call today, and hopefully I get to have you guys back. I think one of the great things about having run this podcast for the last 5 years is really getting to see some of our companies, talking to them like 1 year or 2 years later, and then seeing how things have changed and even have greater news to share. So looking forward to our next call. Thanks, Bintang. Thanks, Timur.
Thank you so much, Paulo. Thank you.
Thank you.